This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Out of England. We're coming to you from London School of Economics' Gary Cafe, which is one of the coolest places to be in central London because it's all student population, and we today are going to pretend to be really young again, young students who are in this lovely discussion. What I'm going to be talking about today is this new initiative called Bridge India, which is about a few months old, and Bridge India is a think tank. Is that how I can summarize it? A group of people, some fine minds have come together to sort of have discussions, events, debates if need be, and engage with the diaspora living in the United Kingdom and Europe to be talking about India and perhaps even with India. Yeah, let me actually, before we get into, because these are such accomplished people, I'd like you to very briefly introduce yourselves, please. Yes, go on.
I'm Revati Prabhu. I'm an architect and urban planner, and I'm based in London but originally from Pune and do a lot of my planning projects in India. Apart from working on city planning projects, I also am part of a social enterprise initiative called Jagriti Yatra, which essentially focuses on trying to create job creators in India, but in the smaller towns and villages. And one of our very exciting programs is a train journey, which is all across India, 14 days, where we take 500 young aspirational entrepreneurs from small towns and introduce them to very, very interesting examples of enterprise. So I wear both hats, and I'm really excited to be part of this Bridge India initiative.
Thank you. I'm going to be jumping on that train very soon. Yes, hi.
Hi, I'm Surat. So I was born in Calcutta and I moved to London around four and a half years ago. I work in the software world. I also co-run an organization which is a peer-to-peer mentoring organization called Network Capital in the UK. And we've globally got around 40,000 members and around 2,000 of them in the UK today. In addition to this, I also try giving back to society with a little bit of charity work. So I run an organization called Sharing with All, and we try and distribute food to the homeless as much as possible, especially now in this weather. Thank you, Radhika.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hi, my name is Ketna Patel, and I'm originally from Kenya, but a British Indian, and I've been living in Southeast Asia and India for the last 25 years. The subject that I'm really interested in exploring, and I have been for quite a long time now, is identity, whether this is intrinsically Indian or in the context of diaspora or colonization. So as we all live in a very globalized world, this is a shifting topic, and I'm zooming into this topic with many projects, so it's really a closer scrutiny of popular culture and our larger Indian identity.
My name is Chhaya Gawri. I was born in Pune and have also lived in Kenya and have been in the UK for the last 20 years. I'm a lawyer and I am co-heading the India desk at a London-based law firm called Howard Kennedy, which has been around for long, and it's a well-known firm and particularly known for being very entrepreneurial. And I basically do go out to India a lot to try and focus on getting Indian investors and companies looking to come to the UK or are in the UK.
Thank you, Chirag. My name is Pratik Dattani. I'm Managing Director of an economic research firm called EPG. Much of my work is cross-border work, promoting trade between the UK and India and other European countries.
Okay. And Pratik, you're also one of the founders of Bridge India, which has brought us together this evening. And my question is on the discussion that we're going to be having on the relevance of something like Bridge India and other think tanks just around the time that Britain has its own mess that it's trying to sort, and also at a time when India is going to see general elections very soon. So tell us about what this event, what this group is, or what this body is that has just been launched. What are you guys up to?
So Bridge India is an apolitical, progressive, inclusive think tank with the aim of discussing public policy ideas that are to do with India. So there are two main target markets. One is diaspora that are in the UK and across Europe who want to better understand India. So particularly if they're second or third generation, sometimes whether the social connection, the linguistic or the political connection with India is missing. So helping them much better engage, and that's really important in the lead up to these kind of elections, which will be historically important, to help Indians abroad better engage back home. The second audience is businesses here and India watchers, who maybe know a little bit about the India opportunity, and they're convinced of the India opportunity, but maybe just don't know how to go about realizing that.
Okay. And so all of you are members of this think tank?
Yes.
Okay. And how are you hoping to contribute to, let's say, this is perhaps a far-fetched question, but living in London or different parts of the United Kingdom, how do you think you can contribute towards this massive exercise of or democratic exercise of general elections? Of course, everybody wants to vote, but it's still a long way before people living outside of India can actually cast their vote. How is it that you can contribute to general elections? Would you reckon discussions, debates, quality conversations? What is it?
I think it's about creating that awareness. So, for example, a lot of us have got very close connections to India, but there are a lot in the UK, within the diaspora, who see India with a very narrow lens. And that's why I think it's an amazingly pertinent time that we've got a think tank where we've got tumultuous time in the UK and tumultuous time in India, and it's a great opportunity for us to all be able to create that awareness within the diaspora about some really fundamental issues, for example, the elections in India, which maybe a lot of people aren't aware of.
Sure. Ketna, you travel a lot, don't you?
Yes.
Tell us about a little bit about this yatra, in a sense, that you are on.
Well, I literally live out of a suitcase, and I'm attracted to what Bridge India is trying to do, because even symbolically, the idea of a bridge suggests that there is a connection between two countries which is bilateral. And I think because we live in an ever-shrinking world, and especially with the rise of populism or the new Britain that might emerge after Brexit, Narendra Modi going around the world trying to make friends with everybody. I think identity is beyond geography and borders, and so if we want to add to cliches and caricatures that exist internationally about what it means to be an Indian, I would like to bring to the table a kind of renewed identity which puts the spotlight onto previously untold stories, so that we get away from the Taj Mahal and the cliches. And I think once we create more and more human narratives and connections, and the door for that bilateral conversation opens up, it influences culture, socialization, economy, etc., elections, everything.
Everything, indeed. Mr. Modi often calls us, people living outside of India, the living bridge. And a lot of, and that's perhaps a very nice way of saying it, living bridge. And now with more and more people actually believing in quality conversations, how much do you think a quality conversation today can make an impact?
So I think it makes a very big impact. This is something we do a lot with Network Capital. We have a meetup every month, and we talk about various ranging topics. It's gone from the Me Too campaign to things happening in the government here, things happening back in India. And I think that's what resonates with Bridge India a lot, and that also helps bridge that gap between what we see here and what's happening back at home. Like something as simple as, a conversation where I probably talk to my father every day, and I tell him something new about my
Where's
life.
Your father?
Here.
Is he in India?
Yeah, my father's in India. And where I tell him something new about my life every day, or how I see the world a little differently from how he has lived his risk-averse or risk-free life, and how we believe in taking very different measures in how we try and deal with our day-to-day life. And that makes a very big difference to how he looks at things today. Like, I think a lot of my childhood was influenced by him, whereas a lot of his laterhood has been influenced by me. And even simple conversations over a coffee table can make a very big difference so far as they're just done in the right way.
Sure, in the right way, and that's really nice. That's really nice because all of us actually do that. We connect with family back in India, and some way or the other there's always some kind of influencing that goes on, whether from India to the UK or UK to India. Revati, what are your thoughts? How can you contribute, being this far away, to this massive exercise of general elections?
Let me come back to your earlier question, which was about what attracted me to this think tank, which will probably then lead to your second question. I think there's a lot of think tanks in London especially, and I think what attracted me to this one was this is a think tank of doers. So we're not just one-dimensional. We have we're doing our own professions. Some of us have set up charities. Some of us have created art installations and are working on programs. So I think there is a much more nuanced and deeper understanding of the ground reality of India, and that's what I'd like to bring to the discussion and the conversation, pre-election, during election, post-election, because I think we're seeing everywhere that debates and populism, and there is a loudness and a noise and a focus on argumentation rather than nuanced and sensible conversations. And I'm hoping that this group, this bridge, as Ketna put it, this sort of self-supporting connection is going to lead to a lot more deep, meaningful conversations.
Okay, brilliant. Do you guys actually talk about it? Now you said Me Too movement, for example. Do you guys actually have organized discussions, debates about that?
Yeah, we do. So I think the Me Too movement, we had one pretty big meetup.
Me Too, of course, was just an example, but you do have organized discussions about things that are happening in India here?
Yeah. So I remember we had one meetup which was with regard to the elections actually, which we had a couple of weeks ago, and how people saw the different ways of whether, it's about the Congress, whether it's about the BJP, what they feel about. I know none of us
what they bring to the table. And
absolutely, and I know none of us can go back right now and maybe cast a vote, and for most of us living here abroad, it's very difficult to even comprehend doing that. But it's so different how we look at things in a very different way. Maybe it's just because...
What is the different way? How do you look at things?
So
what is India looking like for you?
So for me, when I look at things back there, I try and compare it with my life here and how politics is here.
Okay.
Having said that, when I did cast my vote here in this country, I read the manifestos, I watched everyone's speeches, I made my own decision. In India, I think historically our decisions are very influenced by where we live, which family we come from, how we're brought up, which caste we're a part of. I've rarely ever read a manifesto in India, and I would be surprised if a friend of mine came and told me that they have. It's probably just a name or a symbol that we relate with in some way.
But there are manifestos in India. In fact, there are dates designed for parties where they announce a manifesto, but little is made of the manifesto, I think, which is why the lack of trust. Yes.
I just wanted to add that the last discussion we had was actually with the ex-head of Election Commission, Dr. Qureshi, and he was talking about how vibrant democracy in India is, the process of election, but he was also alerting us to the flaws in the entire system. So there is still booths capturing, there is still, all sorts of shenanigans going on. And I think it's important that we recognize that while India is a thriving democracy, there are dangers. You mentioned about the sort of very narrow ways in which we choose our candidates. But one of the focus areas of this group is to look at young Indians and young British Asians or Indians, and to try and help them look at the data and look at the realities and sort of steer them a little bit away from what's happening on the big screen, if I can call that.
To be able to flesh out real from what is very well marketed these days. Pratik, tell me a little bit about the events that you already have had and what's coming up. I'd like to know how you are engaging with people and what the response has been.
So there's broadly two types of events. We've had 3 dinners and lunches so far. One has been, as Revati said, with the former Chief Election Commissioner of India, Dr. Qureshi. And this is what we call a Chatham House setting. So there are 10-12 people. We have very high quality conversation. But it's a free environment where anyone can say whatever they want. Similarly, we had a dinner with a former minister from India earlier, and then in January we've got a dinner with the chairman of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, and there we're exploring India's role within the Commonwealth and why that could become more and more important over the coming years. At the same time, next year we want to start the first of an annual diaspora survey across Europe, which has particular resonance ahead of the elections, because we can ask people whether they're in Germany or Netherlands or the UK or elsewhere, are you an NRI or an OCI? If you were to vote, how might you vote? What are the big issues that you face as a diaspora member in the UK? In Britain, we've heard a lot about visas and immigration. Do those similar issues resonate in other parts of Europe? Or are there more economic factors that come into someone's life? And once we have that kind of understanding, then it's much more possible for the Indian government also to interact with diaspora abroad, whether that's through existing programs like Pravasi Bharatiya Divas or anything else. So I think that knowledge from Europe can go to India. Equally, when we have speakers coming from India who, as Revati said, can cut through that big screen and that noise, we can have really quality, engaging conversations here.